No, this is not clickbait. I have an opportunity to make more than $150,000 per year living in rural Australia, aka low cost of living, but I am not taking it. Let me elaborate. For those who aren't regulars, currently I'm earning around 98,000 per year. This will become about 106 next financial year. Then it'll creep up to about $120,000 more than likely in the near future. This chart shows the breakdown of this, how much I get from my employment income, how much I get from superannuation and other stuff related to my employment. Note that the supermarket pay is set to increase. This script is being written about a month before the minimum wage increase here in Australia. It's going up for sure, but I don't know the amount, so I won't speculate on this yet. I'll be making an income update for me once I receive the raises from both jobs, but for now, I'm keeping a conservative estimate, which is no raise at all, which won't happen. If you're wondering why the superannuation rate increases as the years go on, it's because the rate that employers have to pay increases. So it's like a programmed small pay rise in a way. Yes, it goes into your retirement fund, which I see as a managed mutual fund, aka long-term stock investing, but it's money you earn nonetheless, and it's set to increase as mandated by the government. So you can see I'm on track to earn $120,000. The raise from $78,825 to $80,000 is not guaranteed or talked about. At my full-time office job, we always get raises each year, so this is more than likely to happen. Like if you knew how the business I work at operates, you'd basically see this coming. Haven't talked about it yet with the bosses, but I need to worry about my next two raises before I worry about that third one. So, on track to earn $120,000. How can I turn this into more than $150,000 in the same time frame? By getting another job. See this. I received this text from my friend a while ago. Basically, I can go get work as a bartender at the place he works at whenever I want. There's a massive shortage of lower skilled hospitality workers around the region I live in, so the hours are definitely there. It's not far-fetched to get a few hours every night. And I could even get more hours, but obviously if I was to consider making this practical, I'd need to leave by around 9 p.m. to ensure I get some decent sleep. So here is the breakdown of what it would look like. $29 per hour flat rate, but since I'd only work nights, aka after my accounting job during the day, I'd receive the penalty loading, which is usually around 25%. Tack on superannuation onto this and we're up to about $40 an hour. $40.24 per hour times 3 hours is a little over $120. Add an extra hour for the Friday nights and we total an extra $643.80 per week. Times this by 52 weeks in a year, and we get an extra $33,477 per year. These figures also don't include the increase in minimum wage that is set to happen in about a month or so, and the figures with a bartender job don't include the increases in superannuation rate, or even raises in the minimum wage either, so if anything, this amount would be higher. One thing I will mention before I continue, I live in an area in Australia that isn't a major capital city, so although the minimum wage increase is the same across the board no matter what part of Australia you live in, the salary for my main job is not. If I lived in Melbourne or Sydney, this would be much higher since my salaried job would pay more. And if I lived in places like Luxembourg, Houston, Los Angeles, New York, Toronto, places like that, this would be even higher, although the amount you get from the minimum wage job would be lower. And if you live in places like Southeast Asia, Spain, Africa, this is an ungodly amount of money to you. The reason I use actual numbers is for the sake of transparency, and it makes the examples to give way easier. Don't be discouraged if you live in those places, since obviously no one else around you would be earning this. And if you live in New York, don't go scoffing at these figures, since this money is stupidly high for this area of Australia. Maybe not in the Big Apple, but it most certainly is more than enough to live comfortably here. Well, maybe not because of our housing prices, but you get the point. So back to this bartending job and working on weeknights. Sounds exhausting? Perhaps. But 3 hours per night is quite manageable for a relatively cruisy job like that, in my opinion. And I mean, I have 2-hour-long gym sessions that are quite rough a few nights a week, and I've managed that just fine for a while. Plus, all I'd need to do is to do this for a few weeks and it would become a habit, especially once I have a look at how much money I could earn doing this. So that's how I could earn more than $150,000 per year before I turn 30. Even if I pick this up in 2025, by the time the 2026 financial year rolls around, I'd still be 29. I turn 30 in October in 2026, so before I'm 30, given the projected pay raises and this third job, I could be on close to $155,000 per year, likely even more given wage raises and whatnot. So why aren't I seriously considering this? Because this comes at the expense of my other stats. Without my weekend nights, there goes my gym sessions, aka the aesthetic stat, and there goes a lot of time spent on this brand, aka the brand stat. Yes, I'd still have Saturday nights free if I chose this path, but then you'd obviously have some social events, and even without them, Saturday night and Sunday morning each week isn't enough to get much done in terms of a brand. Even then, I gym Saturday nights usually. I could get some brand work done after the gym, but that's only like a couple of hours at most. And if I chose this path, I'd definitely gym Sunday morning to try and salvage some gains. So there is even less time for the brand. And even then, I'd need the rest of Sunday morning for meal prep, or even use some of Saturday night for it. Although meal prep doesn't eat up that much time since I just let the food cook and keep my eye on it here and there, it's still eating up some precious time. All of this is to say, by jacking up the money stat here, I'd be drastically hindering the aesthetics and brand stat. I personally don't think it's a worthwhile trade-off, but that can be debated. You can argue as long as you stay lean, aka healthy, then it's worth the extra coin. I mean, you'd be on your feet at this job too, so it's not like it's an unhealthy desk job like my career is. And you could also say no point growing a brand, since the brand would need to be fairly large before you can make any sort of money off it, which is another valid point. This might be a good idea for a few years to get some extra coin to help accumulate a second property, for example, but the equity in your current property literally increases at a faster rate than the $33,000 per year you'd get from working this third job. I've touched on real estate and equity in prior videos, but nonetheless, it might be an idea for those who need to break into the market, the real estate market, in the first place. So, although I could be earning almost $155,000 per year before I turn 30, I won't take this up since it'll come at the cost of my other stats. I've come too far in my gym journey to let it wither away, and I've also got too much faith in my brand to let that evaporate too. This is also assuming I'm done with my studies by the time I would consider this. Obviously, there's no way I could get any study done if I picked up this third job, so it assumes I'm done with my CPA studies, although that goes without saying since obviously this move has 100% focus on the money stat. This example provides some perspective on making money. You hear people earning way more than you, but at what cost? Those in mining here in Australia can earn crazy amounts of money, but it's hard work in shit conditions and they spend heaps of time away from home. Maybe you're fine with this? I mean, I don't mind having a small room to myself and doing what I want, but apparently many mine sites have shit reception. Not implausible since you're in the middle of nowhere and Australia has bad internet coverage anyway. But for me personally, I'd rather be home every night to my usual routine. Some people in mining cannot fathom only getting 4 weeks of annual leave per year. They much prefer the whole 2 weeks on, 1 week off type of thing, although obviously that week off usually involves flights and travels to and from the mine site. So although money is important, don't pursue it at the cost of everything else in your life. Make sure you have enough to be comfortable, make sure your income source is stable, have any inconsistent income sources such as a business or whatnot on the side of a regular stable income source, and you'll be living a pretty comfortable, easy life. You don't want to end up with no money or resources because you gambled your life savings on a business idea that didn't work. Do it on the side of a stable source of income so you have something to fall back on, which is again something I've touched on in other videos. Hope this opens your perspective on making money. Thanks for watching. That is all.